Hot Tots, welcome back to my channel. Today I do this Christmassy makeup look while telling you another dating disaster story. This is actually a relationship. You're gonna wanna wait till the end of the video because I give all the deets, the nitty gritty, the dirty. I mean, so much came out with dating this guy, it's unreal. But if you're interested in watching a dating disaster and seeing this makeup look, then stay tuned and let's get into the video. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm opening a Monster. I haven't had a Monster in a long time. I'm more of a Red Bull gal, as you know. But I'm gonna try this Ultra Blue. Let's see. Woo, pretty good. Like a blue slushie for sure. Okay. First and foremost, I wanna point out that I keep buying this. This is the best red wine I've ever had, and I'm not even over exaggerating. It's $15. It's like the Apothic brand, the Cali Red by Snoop Dogg. I'm obsessed. I just had to tell you that before we get started. I will link down below all the products I'm using, but let's get started. As you guys can tell by the name of this video, this is yet another dating disaster. Now, this is a little different because I actually dated this guy, and I'm just gonna tell you the story about him because it was the mess. First off, you guys gotta cut me some slack because I was 27 or 26 when I met him, and he was the first person I ever met on the internet. So this was right after me and my ex-boyfriend, who I dated for like 8 years, broke up. This is the first guy I met after that. So I had never had dating experience at all. I never had even gone out on a date with someone I hadn't known before. So first off, like I said, I had never been on a dating website before. So I had put my age range pretty high. Like, I've always been interested in older guys. I don't know why, I just always have been attracted to older guys. So I put my age range from like my age, which was 26 or 27 at the time, to like 34 or 32 or something. I think it was 32. And thinking that this guy, like an older guy, would be like more mature. So we have learned in adult life, that doesn't mean anything that they're older. They can be just as immature as they were when they were 22. Right, ladies? So anyways, I start DMing, I mean, what is it called? This guy who was 32, almost 33. And remember, I was 26 or 27. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this older guy, you know, I just had come from a relationship where it was from high school to college, but, you know, he was very much kind of set back in his ways because he went into the military at 18. So it's like, I don't know, we kind of grew up together, and then he kind of didn't have that time in college to kind of like find himself type of thing. So it was a very like high school-y feeling type of relationship, even for the 4 years that we dated outside of high school. So my ex-boyfriend, we dated for so long, and I could trust him with anything, you guys. He was such a good guy, but also he was very introverted. I never had to like be worried about him going out, doing stuff like that. Like, that's nothing that I ever had to worry about. So just keep that in mind. I decide to meet this guy, first time ever, at one of my favorite bars at the time. Was this local bar in the place I grew up where everyone used to always be. So I felt like really safe going there with a guy that I've never met before, you know? So I met him up there. We had been texting for about like 2.5 weeks, and he was just like very attentive, wanted to know what I was doing, really communicative. Like, he would text me from morning till night, but not in like an annoying way, but like just like we would have like flowing conversation the whole day. He also would call me on the phone, which was so different than what I was used to, because with my ex, you know, he barely spoke to me all day, and then I would have to be like, hey, am I coming over, you know? And then I would go over there, and it would still just be like, he didn't like express his emotions very well. He didn't do all these things. So like, coming from no communication ever, and hanging out like twice a week to someone who's like texting me all day and calling me on the phone and wanting to know what I'm doing all the time. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so nice. Things aren't always what they seem. And there I was like, okay, I'm gonna meet up with him. I'm so excited. You know, I didn't actually think he was very cute in his pictures, but I was like, you know, I'm gonna give this guy a chance because A, some people don't take good pictures, but B, like, I don't care. I really like enjoy his personality. So I go and meet him. I walk in and this guy is like 6'4", in great shape, like works out in shape, blue eyes, like a stronger nose, which I actually like that. And has like sandy brownish, blondish brown, more brown hair. And he has like such a great smile, and he like walks up to me and like gives me a kiss on the cheek, like leads me to the chair. And I had just never been even around or dated like someone who knows what they're doing. You know, me and my ex, we were each other's first boyfriend and girlfriend, first, you know, loves, everything. So like he already right then, he was like courting me, and I was like, so I don't really remember what we even talked about, honestly. All I remember is that I was like so into him, and he was giving me all the signs that he was into me. You know, like he was turning his full body towards me, touching my leg, like talking to me and like really looking in my eyes as he spoke with me. Like he bought all my drinks for me. He just was so gentlemanly. You guys, I actually think, yeah, no, he was 33. He was 33 going to be 34. That's what it was. So we have a great first date. He walks me to my car, and he like gives me, like, he makes the move, but he goes the 90-10, like Hitch, like on Hitch. So he goes 90, I go 10, we like have a good kiss, and he was like all giddy. He's like, oh my gosh, like, thank you so much for coming out with me, and like got to his car. And I was just freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, this handsome older guy, like, thinks I'm cute, is courting me, is so nice, whatever. Like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So at this time, I live with my roommate, and I run home and I tell her all about the date. I'm like, oh my God, he's perfect, love him. And then I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been waiting for, like someone who actually knows what they're doing, someone who, like, you know, is confident and cool, calm and collected, someone who's older and like has their stuff figured out. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm talking him up in my head, and I'm so excited. So just to give you guys like a timeline, him and I dated for about 6 months total. So this is the way beginning, and from here things progressed. So we went on a couple more dates. He kept following up with me, kept wanting to hang out again. He would hang out with my roommate and I. He would go anywhere I wanted to go. He would hang out with my friends, which that was a big change for me too, because my ex just had a lot of PTSD, which wasn't his fault. But so in your early 20s, you want to go out, you want to like hold hands, you want someone to kiss you, you want to like dance with someone, you want to like go to parties with someone and like go to bars with someone. And that just wasn't happening for me before. He didn't even barely want to go out to eat at the time. That was then, that's not him now. But so it was such a change for me to be with someone who like wanted to go out, was willing to meet my friends, was willing to go out with me, was like affectionate towards me in front of people. Like I was just smitten. And then things started taking a turn. One thing that had happened was eventually he let slip that he was a dad. And I was like, okay, you know, and logically I'm thinking, you know, you guys know I love kids, and I don't have a problem with people who have kids. Even though I was younger at the time, it does not bug me because I love kids. I grew up with a ton of siblings, and I'm not afraid around children. You know, like I have no problem being around kids. And I was like, okay. So he told me he has a son, and his son was 5 or 6 at the time. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, and he's telling me all this stuff about his ex-wife and how she was crazy, and she, you know, would do all this crazy stuff, and she tried to like not let him be a dad and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. So far I know that he has a son. That's all he told me for the longest time. So that comes out. Then what comes out is that he's like a struggling personal trainer. So he works at like it wasn't this gym, but like an LA Fitness type of gym, if you know what I mean. And he is like a personal trainer there, and he's trying to work on being a better trainer, but he doesn't make much money. And I was like, okay, you know, whatever. At this time, I wasn't making good money at all. But lucky for me, I did have a roommate, and we did have like a really good rate on our condo that we were living in, because a woman that I worked with at the hair salon owned it. And so she gave us like a super good deal on this really nice, like 3-story beautiful condo. So although wasn't making a ton of money, I was living really within my means. So I felt like I had a decent amount of money. Like I never felt like I couldn't go buy something, you know? Looking back on that now, I'm like, man, I was broke, but like, you get it. So what first started happening was I started paying for a lot of things that we did. Looking back now, I can see all these things, but then I couldn't. So this guy would text me morning to night, call me at least once a day. Like, he was very in touch and communicating with me at all times. And I was like, wow, this is so, so nice. And what I've learned now as an adult is you don't need someone to be communicating with you all day, all night. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes that means they want to know what you're doing all the time, because they might not be doing great things. So at this point, I was like super into him, but I kept having this like weird gut feeling, and it didn't make sense because nothing was going on, but I just had a gut feeling about something, like something is off, something's not right. And ladies, follow your gut. I always just felt that way, and I didn't really know why. It was so bizarre, I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I finally became friends with him on Facebook. So this is probably about a month and a half in, or 2 months in. We weren't official, like we never had like an official talk that we were like together, but we would hang out like 3 times a week. Like I had never hung out with a guy as much as I did him. Like he would come stay the night 2 times a week and then hang out with me another time. So he would basically be over almost 6 days out of the 7 of the week. And I'm telling you, I still to this day have never had a relationship like that still since then. Like this guy hung out with me all the time, and I probably spent 1 or 2 nights away from him a week. So in my head, of course, I'm like, okay, he's obviously so into me, right? Sorry that the lighting sucks, but he's obviously so into me. He obviously wants to hang out with me at all times, and obviously this is gonna work out. I need more blush, you know, you can never have enough blush, I'll tell you that. So, first thing that happened was I went to Las Vegas for like a long weekend with one of my girlfriends, Emily. And me and him had never talked about being official at this time. And usually, like I said, he would call me every day, talk to me, text me throughout the whole entire day. Well, this was about 2.5 months into us hanging out. So it was now about November time, okay? Almost Thanksgiving, it was right after Thanksgiving time, okay? So Thanksgiving had just passed, and then I was going to Vegas with my friend. So I was in Vegas, and I'm like, man, he's not even like really texting me a lot or talking to me a lot. But I was like, you know what? He's probably wanting me to just like have a good vacation. He's probably trying not to like bug me, you know? So he would text me like sporadically throughout the day. Like he wasn't like not talking to me, but I remember he saw like in one of my Snapchat stories that, because I was big on the Snapchat story then. Ladies, you know what I'm talking about. He saw in one of my Snapchat stories that there was like 2 really good looking in shape guys that was with the group that I was with. And they were staying like in our hotel suite, like in our we had a big suite with like multiple rooms. So they were staying in one of the rooms of our suite. And he saw that. And he calls me and he was like, hey, I see that like these guys are staying with you, whatever. And he was being really cool about it, but I was like, no, you know, whatever. And he's like, well, I just want to make sure that we know like we're official, right? Like we wouldn't be doing anything with anyone else, like you and I are dating. And I was like, yeah, sure, like we can be official. I'm so excited, I'm so pumped. there was a night where everyone went out in Vegas and I didn't go out. So I called him and he didn't answer. And it was like 7 o'clock in Vegas. So it was probably like 8 or 9 o'clock, 8, 9, 10, 10 o'clock in Ohio. And I was like, why isn't he answering? It's 10 o'clock. And it was on a weekday. Doesn't answer, doesn't text me, doesn't call me back. The next day, he doesn't text me, doesn't call me back until noon. Noon my time, which is 3 o'clock Ohio time. This is when I was in Vegas. It's a 3-hour difference. So I was like, dude, he's never done that before. What the heck's going on? A lot was going on, you guys. Shiesty people in this world. He ends up calling me and he's like, oh my gosh, hi, I'm so sorry. My phone died. I'm not feeling well. All this BS. But I took him for his word because, like I said, the guy I dated before him was a honey bun and I could trust him with anything. I had never been with someone who I couldn't trust. So I was like, oh, it's fine. Like, no big deal. So everything goes back to normal. I come home and then that's when things kind of changed. I just had a gut feeling that something was up. Every time he would put his phone down when we would be eating or going anywhere, it would be face down and he always had it on silent. And that is something I noticed that change. Before he would have his phone up and then it would beep and stuff like that. So subconsciously I noticed that change. But again, I had never been through like cheating or people misleading me or me not being able to trust someone. Because at this point, my ex had been my only boyfriend ever, and I could trust him with anything. I grew up with him, So I started noticing that happening, I think subconsciously, because I then started just feeling a certain way. And like women's intuition, you guys, that is on point. I'm telling you, if you feel it in your gut, something is up. It is always up. It always is up. He still hung out with me a ton. And the communication via text and phone call didn't change at all. Like, he still would text me a lot. He still would call me a lot. We hung out a little less, but it was because he had started another job. So he had 2 jobs going on, but he still probably stayed the night twice a week. We still hung out a lot. Now, this is when I saw something for sure in front of me. I posted finally. I was like always so nervous too. And that's like another clue. Like in my gut, I was always so nervous to like post something to his Facebook. I didn't think that made sense. He had told me about like exes that were crazy and that he doesn't like really use his Facebook. He also, you guys, had told me about an ex-fiance and that he had been engaged before and that she broke his heart and she cheated on him and that's why they broke up. So one day I get on his Facebook and I post this little thing. It was like a little dog and it said, when your boyfriend's leaving your house in the morning, and it's like the dog, the window's going up and the dog's trying to push it down like, meh. And I sent him that and I said, me this morning with you. And it instantly was gone. It instantly was deleted. Like I had posted it and 2 minutes later it was completely gone. Suspicious. Remember, I was at work at the time and I just like felt really sick to my stomach when I saw that it wasn't there. And I ran over to my friend Tina's like office and she was just like, this is really suspicious. Like, why would it be gone? And he goes, I never saw it. I never posted. I didn't see it because he had deleted it so quickly. It was really less than 2 minutes later. So then I felt crazy. I was like, okay, maybe he didn't delete it. Maybe it didn't post. Like, I don't know what's going on. And he was like, also like my settings are like people can't see what other people post and that's because my ex is crazy and I don't want her seeing anything, yada yada. And I was like, okay, but I just had this gut feeling, right? So then what comes out is we're at dinner and he tells me that he actually has 2 kids. If I were who I am now, I'd be like, no. 4 months in and you now just tell me you have 2 kids? Nay, nay, I say. Nay, nay. But I was young and impressionable. I was like, okay. He said, I'm never really able to see her. I have a daughter and she's older. So the little boy was probably like 6 or 7 and this girl was like 13. And he said, I was married. This is what I had been married before. I was married. We had a daughter. My ex didn't want me to ever see her. She's keeping her from me, blah, blah, blah. Then I started dating someone else. We had a son and I love children. Like I would never, like he's going into this thing about like abortion. Like I would never make someone get an abortion. Like I love kids and so whatever. And I'm like thinking, okay, By this time, he had just turned 34. I'm like, okay, logically, I get it. You marry someone really young and you guys think you're gonna be together forever, right? So you have a baby and then it doesn't work out. That happens, okay. So now you're in your late 20s and you meet someone else and you guys date, and then you date for a couple years and she gets pregnant and has a baby. It's like, this is all logically possible and it makes sense. Like, he's 34, he's older than I am, you know, whatever. So that all comes out. And I'm like, okay, well, now I'm invested in you. I like you. Although I'm feeling a little shadiness from you. It's not really from you, but I just feel it in my gut. I still like you. I'm gonna keep you around. Another month goes by. It's now like month 5. And there have been a couple instances now where I just feel this feeling in my gut. Like, I liked something on his Facebook and then that post goes away. Or there was like 3 things that happened on the Facebook situation that were weird. I also saw that this one girl had been commenting a lot. She was in this picture with another girl and they looked like they were probably together like a couple, or at least I thought that they were. So I was like, oh, she must just be his friend. Like, you know, she has a girlfriend, you know? And the girl honestly looks like me, but more like plain Jane, like doesn't really wear makeup and, you know, had shorter hair and stuff like that, but she looked a lot like me. It was very bizarre. Didn't think anything of it until New Year's hit. So New Year's comes and I'm like, oh, are we hanging out for New Year's? And he said, oh no, sorry, me and my family have like a euchre tournament that we always do, and you would be meeting like the whole family if you came, and I just think it's a little early for that since we've only been dating for like 4-ish months, almost 5 months. And I was like, no, it's totally fine, like you do that and I'll like go with my girlfriends and do what I usually do on New Year's, which is what, I don't know, we just go out and do aimless things. So New Year's comes around and I'm like bummed, and New Year's Eve day, he spent the day with me because he was like, well, since I won't be around for New Year's with you, I'll spend the day with you on New Year's Eve. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Okay, cool. So he spends the day with me. We went to dinner, like an early dinner. It was like 3 o'clock because he said he had to drive to go to his family's house. He talks to me on the phone on his whole drive the way there, which, mind you, I did not take into consideration how long the drive time would be to get where his parents were. But he called me and talked to me the whole way. That night when the ball dropped or whatever, I tried to call him, he didn't answer. I tried to text him, he didn't answer. And then like a half an hour later, he's like, Happy New Year, babe. Blah, 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 blah. The next day he's calling me when he's driving home, and everything seems normal. I went off on him one night. I had been drinking with one of my girlfriends and I just said to him, can you come pick me up? And he's like, yeah, what's up? And I just was like, I just have a feeling. And I was going crazy. It had been like 3 months of me having these gut feelings, but I had no validation of them. Like, there was no proof that he was doing anything. There was no proof that he did anything wrong. And I was like crying to him saying like, I feel like you're lying to me. I feel like there's someone else. You might not be seeing them a lot. I feel like you're just talking to someone else, or like something, like it's not a ton of time with them, but I can just feel something's going on. And he's like, no. And he's been doing this for 3 months. So this final time I'm like going off, I'm like, I'm drunk. Cause I'm like, yeah. And he made me feel, he was being so nice, which made me feel worse. Like, he would never be mean to me, but he was manipulatively perfect. Like, I'm going off and he'd be like, I don't know what I've done to make you mistrust me, and I'm so sorry if you've had things in the past, but this is your own issue. This isn't me, yada, yada, yada. And then I would feel like crap, like, oh my God, again, I'm doing this to him. I'm such a horrible person. So then there was one night he stayed the night, and this is when shitteth hitteth the fanneth, if you will, is laying in my bed next to me. And I get a DM from someone on Facebook, and I look, and it's that girl that I was like, oh, she has a girlfriend. And she DMs me, and I see that I have like a Facebook message because we're not friends on Facebook, you know, so she couldn't contact me. And I just see the first part of it says hello. And I turn to him and I go, hey, your friend Jordan just DM'd me. And he was like, oh. He was like, oh, okay, well, who knows what she wants. He's like, but let's go to bed. It's like late. Because it was like 11 o'clock. He goes, why don't you just check it tomorrow? Let's go to bed. And I just was like, no, I'll check it now. I looked at it and I just turned my body towards him. I already knew what it was gonna say. Like, it said, hello. I'm sorry if this makes me sound crazy, and I'm so sorry if this isn't true, but Adam always seems to lie when it comes to you. I'm using his real name because I don't care, and this was 6 years ago, or 5 years ago. So I was like, what? And it said, I live in Michigan. I've been seeing Adam since Thanksgiving, like around Thanksgiving time. He always says that he's hanging with you, but that you guys are just best friends and that I'm overthinking things and blah, blah, blah. Is this true or not? Like, I'm so sorry if it is. Like, this is so embarrassing, but he just always seems to lie when it comes to you. And that's when my feelings had started, you guys. Remember? Like, right after Thanksgiving time, I was like, I just have this weird feeling. Nothing had been happening, but I had a feeling. My mom's medium says that I could be a medium if I tried it. He said I'm an empath, and that I can feel other people's emotions, and that I'm very good at sensing people's inside turmoil and like stuff like that. So I was like, he was right, obviously. I turned to him and I'm like, oh my gosh. She then proceeds, I said, he's in my bed with me. No, we have been officially dating. And she was like, oh my gosh. So I turned to him and I'm like reading this to him, and then he just like gets up out of bed and he's just like getting dressed. He's like, ugh. And I go, no, you need to sit down. And I was so calm, cool, and collected. Like, it was insane. I think too, because I was so in love with my ex and I'd been with him for so long, that this didn't mean as much to me, even though he may have thought that it did. Like, I knew a certain kind of like love and affection and a deep love for someone who had been overseas and, I don't know, fighting for our country, that this was not the end all for me. But I basically turned to him and I was calm and I was like, I knew something was going on, and I told you in my gut, I felt it, and you made me feel crazy for thinking that. I feel so relieved, like I was right. I'm not crazy. And he just was like, no, you were right on. And he ends up spilling his guts, which, by the way, this girl DM'd me, right? Her name was Jordan. Then another girl DM'd me. That was his ex-fiance. And she said the reason why they broke up is because he had been seeing that Jordan girl. Let me get to the good part. So we break up, obviously. I literally let him leave, and I was actually so nice. I was like, you're really messed up. You're 34 years old and you're still playing these games. You have 2 children. You need to be a better father to them. And you're sitting here with a 27-year-old girl who was doing everything for you, and you cheated on her, treated her bad, and I'm more mature than you are at 27 and you're 34. Like, I was just like, I wish you the best. Like, I hope you get your shit together, because obviously something's wrong with you mentally, and the manipulation's crazy. I never pushed for us to have a relationship. I never pushed for us to be official. You did. And if you weren't ready to be officially with just me, then you shouldn't have done that. And he was just like, and then he was like, you're so mature. Like, I can't believe how well you're taking this. Like, I feel like shit, like all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, ladies, you make guys feel more like crap if you react well. Then if you were acting crazy, they'd be like, oh, she's crazy. Good for me. I'm out. No, you react well. They're like, oh my gosh, like, I'm the idiot and I suck at life. And you're like, yes, you do. Here is the backstory. You guys will freak out. So the backstory is, he was married. Yes, he had a daughter with her, whatever. Come to find out, that woman, he was so like emotionally unstable. She did not want her daughter around him. There was like some suspicious activity going on. I don't know. But anyways, she doesn't want her around him, but she lets him see her once a week if he wants to, but he does not come see her, okay? This is all that I gathered from like all these girlfriends that came out of the woodwork, and like we're in a team and they all came to me. So the ex-wife came in contact with me, the ex-fiance came in contact with me, and this girl Jordan came in contact with me, which is like a girlfriend of his. So then from there, he meets his next girl, which I never talked to her, had a baby, had that boy with her. They broke up and like cordially, supposedly. Then he gets to see that son as much as he wants. Then he started dating his fiance, his ex-fiance. They dated for like 6 months. He proposed to her on a cruise. And then she found out 3 months later that he had been seeing Jordan. He met her on Christian Mingle. And he had been talking and seeing and sneaking off with Jordan for 4 months, like pretty much the whole time that he was dating his fiance. And Jordan blew him out of the water because he had said the whole time, like, I'm going to break up with my fiance. She's crazy. She's this, she's that. Or I'm going to break up with my girlfriend. He wasn't engaged to her yet. And he had told Jordan, like, I'm going to break up with my girlfriend. She's crazy. She's this, she's that. And then she saw on his Facebook, he got tagged by someone in his fiance's family that he asked her to marry him. And so Jordan was like, oh my gosh, you've been lying to me. You told me you were leaving her and now you're engaged to her. And so then Jordan contacted the fiance and blew him out of the water. So then Adam gets blown up and the fiance's like, see ya, like, we're not gonna be together anymore. Like, I'm done. And Adam threatened to do all this stuff. Like, I guess like he had locked himself in the bathroom. She had to call the cops to make sure he wasn't harming himself. Like, she told me all this stuff. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? But he is a master manipulator, so I don't even think that he was actually truly trying to do anything. He just wanted her to listen to him. So it's so funny though, because if you met him, his demeanor and the way he is, he's very relaxed, very calm, very nice, very whatever. He never yelled at me. He never called me name. And even when I was screaming at him saying he did this, he did that, thinking that he was doing all these things, which he was doing, he would still be nice to me about it and be like, I know you're going through something and like you feel this way, but I'm not like that and I want you to trust me. So this all comes out, and then I'm like, Jordan, why are you dating him again? And she said that it had been a year since all that had happened. And on Thanksgiving, he had reached out to her and said, hey, I miss you. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. I'm so sorry for everything that happened. I've always loved you, or something. And they had started chatting, and then he was with her on New Year's Eve, you guys. He went and stayed with her on New Year's Eve. So, and one of the things, you guys, I forgot to mention that had made me think that something was going on was I went to a bar with him. He ended up living with this guy. Eventually, we became roommates with this other personal trainer. And we went to like their bar that was in their apartment complex. And the bartender looked at me and was like, are you with him? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, oh, okay. And like gave him a look. And I was like, and then I thought, well, maybe he flirted with her or something. No, I found out that 2 days before that, he had brought Jordan there. We look very similar, and he had been kissing on Jordan there 2 days before. And then he brought me. So that is my little story of the first dating experience I had after my long-term high school boyfriend. Online dating sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Trust your gut, ladies. That's all I have to say. If you're to learn anything from me, trust your dang gut. And that's why now when I'm dating, I literally trust my gut instantly, and I'm like, see ya. Instantly, and I'm like, see ya. Because I am always right. My gut is always right, you guys. I'll have moments where I'm like, why do I just feel like something's up? And this other guy, a different story, another guy I dated for a little bit, I had this feeling, and there was nothing that showed me that anything would happen, but the day that whatever happened, I had a feeling that day. And that day, something did happen with him and another girl. I swear to you, psychic or something. But also, trust your gut, ladies. This is my holiday look. Do we like it? Do we love it? Do we want some more of it? Thank you guys so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't, because it really helps support my channel. I post every Monday and Thursday, and sometimes on a random other day. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.